Imagine you've spent years in a North Korean labor camp. You work, no pay. You eat if there's food. You sleep if the guards allow it. Days blur into seasons. Perhaps you've forgotten there was ever an outside. Perhaps you still remember something. A hot summer day, walking down a street in Pyongyang. A burst of laughter with your family before some of you disappeared. Perhaps you regret watching our career guide and trusting its false promise. Comrade, look up. Don't waste your time on regret. Regret is just another form of captivity. You can climb out of your cell, crawl under the electrified fence, bribe a guard with 2 cigarettes and a promise he doesn't believe. What? You think it's too dangerous? Not worth trying? Don't worry. In this episode, we're here to help. We're going to walk you through your options when you end up in a labor camp. Whether you're a first-time offender or a 3-generation political prisoner, this is your unofficial yet comprehensive guide to escaping the inescapable. Relax. Take it easy. Let's begin.
Conditions in North Korea's prison camps have been compared to those in Nazi jails in a new UN report. The head of the independent inquiry says inmates suffered starvation and torture and described unspeakable atrocities.
The individual testimonies emerging from the public hearings, of which these are just instances.
Before planning the escape, the first and perhaps the most crucial step is to ask yourself, do you really want to escape? Wait, what? You said this will be an escape guide. Calm down. It may sound absurd, but let's think it through together. First of all, tell me, what does it mean to escape a prison in a country that is a prison itself? Do you plan to escape North Korea after getting out of the labor camp? For many, life outside those barbed wires isn't much different from inside. The entire nation of North Korea is somehow a larger open-air prison, a land of constant surveillance, chronic hunger, and fear. So what's the purpose of transferring from one prison to another? Second, you know what? People say, if you've never tasted freedom, you don't crave it. Having lived in a gulag, you might not even crave the sunlight of freedom. In fact, many prisoners don't dream of escape at all. Shin Dong-hyuk, someone who claims to have been born and raised in the notorious Camp 14, recalled that the thought of fleeing never crossed his mind. He assumed the outside world was just like the camp, that everybody lived in a prison camp like this. After all, when you're born in chains, freedom is an alien concept. Most prisoners simply accept their fates to be rotten in the cells. The camps brutalize inmates into submission. They learn early on that any attempt to escape means immediate execution, not only for them, but perhaps for their families and distant relatives. During Shin's childhood education inside Camp 14, one of the rules drilled into prisoners was, if you escape, you will be shot. If you plan to escape, you will be shot. Even if you don't report someone else's escape plan, you will be shot. Public executions were staged regularly to illustrate the point vividly. After seeing enough hangings and firing squads, many inmates accept that their only release will come by death or decree, never by breakout.
Kang didn't know better, so when his father, who had been in a camp, decided that the family should escape abroad, he was crestfallen.
At first I said no, I wanted to protect the fatherland. My father said, "Fatherland? What country is that? What a shit country."
And what if you are lucky enough to finish your sentence? Your new life outside can feel like a mere extension of the old prison life. Take former inmate Kang Chol-hwan as an example. As a child, he spent 10 years in the Yodok camp for no crime of his own, but guilt by association. His family was punished under North Korea's 3 generations of punishment rule. When Kang's family was finally let out in the late 1980s, They weren't truly free. He was banished to a remote village near the camp and barred from returning to Pyongyang. Every aspect of his life was monitored. North Korea's control didn't end at the camp gates. Former prisoners remain under watch, often relegated to menial lives in the provinces. With travel restricted and a hostile class label stamped on your identity, the whole country can feel like a larger prison without walls. Little wonder some ex-prisoners don't bother dreaming of crossing the border. They are broken in both body and spirit, feel satisfied to trudge through whatever years remain, as long as they avoid drawing the regime's wrath again. So the first step is sobering. Question your desire to escape. Is it truly worth seeking an exit from one form of hell when the alternative might just be another kind of gulag? Besides, if you were born in the camp and had zero common knowledge of the outside world, how would you survive outside the electrified fences? Unless you really have that spark, a reason to believe in a better life, you might find cruel comfort in prison. In the dark irony of North Korea's camps, some who have lived in darkness their whole lives do not miss the light. But if you do decide to flee, plan your final destination wisely. To escape the camp but remain inside North Korea is to exchange one set of guards for another. You must escape the country entirely, cross the rivers, evade the border patrols, and survive in hiding across China. Remember, staying in your motherland risks being caught and dragged back into something even worse. To escape, you need a strong, unshakable mentality.
Miss Kim Il-suk was sent to camp number 18 at Pukchang at the age of 13. Her grandfather escaped allegedly to South Korea. That was the reason for the relocation of the whole family. She spent there 28 years.
Okay, we see your determination. The next step is to analyze your situation and plan wisely. In North Korea, not all criminals are equal. Some prisoners are considered redeemable, even useful to the regime. Others are considered class enemies or unsalvageable by Kim's standards. So, your escape plan depends on why you were imprisoned in the first place. Ask yourself, were you a somebody or a nobody before becoming a number in the camp? A bureaucrat, an academic, an athlete, a scientist? Or are you a political outcast, a would-be defector, a so-called traitor by blood? The distinction is crucial. North Korea's labor camp system has different tiers. Kang Chol-hwan noted that parts of Yodok camp were actually designated for inmates with a chance of release. Twice a year, authorities held meetings to review cases and decide if any reformed souls might be let out. In practice, this meant that prisoners from the elite classes, say a high-ranking party cadre or a bureaucrat who fell out of favour, might only serve 3 to 5 years of hard labour. In some extreme cases, essential technocrats get punished symbolically, like our current Foreign Minister, Chae Son-hui, who only got promoted after 3 months of re-education in 2020. After enduring the punishments, these figures could be compelled to sign loyalty pledges and then quietly reinstated to society. The logic is chillingly pragmatic. Break them down and rebuild their devotion. Once they pledge strong loyalty to the regime anew, they can even return to Pyongyang's fold. Another notorious example. In the mid-1980s, facing pressure from overseas Koreans living in Japan, Kim Jong-il ordered the release of all prisoners who had relatives in Japan to receive critical economic support. Kang Chol-hwan's family, who had come under suspicion due to a grandfather who once lived in Japan, benefited from this decree. After 10 cruel years, they were let out as a political goodwill gesture. In other words, even a totalitarian state knows how to dangle mercy when it serves a purpose.
When somebody squealed to the police, people would suddenly disappear at night. I've heard they ended up in prison camps.
So if your background gives you leverage, regardless of being foreign connections, special skills, or value to the propaganda machine, your best bet might be to endure and hope the regime eventually forgives you. Perhaps you were a celebrated athlete who made a politically inconvenient mistake or lost a critical game. You should have faith that the state would rehabilitate you later, since it's better to showcase a repentant sports hero than forever lose that state asset. If you were a scientist or an engineer, the regime might decide after some years that your labour is more useful in a research lab than in a coal mine. There are whispers that certain technicians and officials are quietly transferred out of camps once their lesson is deemed learned. In these cases, patience and obedience can be a survival strategy. You do not need to escape. But what if you fall on the wrong side of this cruel calculus? Most prisoners are little nobodies. They are ordinary people caught by extraordinary injustice. Perhaps you tried to leave the country, or you were caught listening to foreign radio, or you just had the misfortune of being related to someone deemed disloyal. These crimes against the state are the sort the regime is least likely to pardon in any meaningful way. In fact, North Korea explicitly excludes traitors and would-be defectors from mercy. During a 2010 amnesty under Kim Jong-il, those convicted of attempting to flee to South Korea or of other state security threats were not eligible for release. They only pardoned thieves, low-level economic criminals, and those petty offenders who posed no political risk. For anyone labelled a serious political criminal, the message is clear. It ain't no amnesty coming for you. And your prison term is either life or death. If that is your situation, as someone who or whose family dared defy the regime, ask yourself honestly, do I have anything left to lose? North Korea considers you irredeemable on paper. Your charge won't be dismissed in a prisoner amnesty, and you won't be rehabilitated and welcomed back by the party. Your very existence is a threat in their eyes. For these prisoners, the ones jailed for ideological crimes, the grim truth is that no one is coming to save you. From Kim's perspective, you are neither useful nor forgivable. Finally, think about your family. Are your Appa and Omma still alive? Are they in the camp too? What about your siblings? If so, if you successfully break it free, your family will face the consequences for you. In North Korea, you must get accustomed to kin punishment. 3 generations of a family can be swallowed by one accusation. They will visit your village and knock on your parents' home. They will interrogate, beat, and exile everyone who shares the surname with you until they confess or die. Escape is not just your risk, it is your family's sentence. In sum, if you have no hope of royal pardon, and you are not worried much about your mama and papa, escape becomes a viable, perhaps the only option. It is the rational choice of the politically damned. If staying means a slow death by starvation and abuse, then fleeing, even at the risk of immediate death, starts to make sense. This is the desperate logic that motivated Shin Dong-hyuk to escape. Shin only found his will to escape once he realized nothing inside the camp would ever change. A new prisoner from Pyongyang told Shin tantalizing tales of the outside world, especially about broiled chicken and pork, those luxury foods Shin had never tasted. Shin thought, there will be chicken and pork if I were able to escape the barbed wires, fixating on the simple dream of a full belly. It was hunger and hopelessness that finally flipped a switch in his mind. If you decide escape is your only lifeline, the next step is to confront what that truly entails.
Years went by. Shin was teamed up with a guy who had lived outside the wire. He told the boy about Kim Jong-il and his father Kim Il-sung, and about the fact that a world existed out there where there was endless amounts of food every day.
The food made me escape. Even if it was going to cost me my life, the only thing that interested me was the food.
Make no mistake, deciding to run is deciding to risk death in more than a dozen horrific ways. North Korea's borders and prison camps are engineered to be escape-proof, so ask yourself, are you prepared to crawl through electrified fences? Are you willing to bribe guards with everything you have? Can you survive icy rivers and evade trigger-happy patrols? This is not hyperbole. These are the real ordeals that North Korean defectors have endured. Consider the escape of Shin Dong-hyuk in January 2005. He and a fellow prisoner, Park, seized a chance while collecting firewood near the camp's perimeter. Dusk was falling and the guard towers were distant. They made a break for the high-voltage fence marking the camp's boundary. Shin slipped on the snow, but Park reached the fence first. In a split second, Park flung himself onto the strands of electrified barbed wire, using his body to press the live wires down, and he was immediately electrocuted. Park's gruesome sacrifice opened a path. Shin scrambled up and literally crawled over his friend's dead body to get past the wires. Burned, injured, but alive, he tumbled down the other side of the fence, free of the camp but far from safe. Now Shin was a fugitive in rural North Korea, a walking skeleton in thin prison garb, lost in one of the most tightly controlled countries on earth. What next? He had no idea where to go. He'd never even heard of China or seen a map. Perhaps hearsays from fellow prisoners told him to go north. Desperate and starving, he scavenged and stole whatever he could to survive. According to his own account, he managed to bribe his way past North Korean border guards and slipped over the frozen Tumen River under the cover of night. Then, his journey through China was itself a trial by fire. Penniless and alone, he wandered for months, hiding from police, until he finally stumbled into the South Korean consulate in Shanghai. He eventually made it to South Korea, though the transition was so overwhelming that he had to be hospitalized for trauma and malnutrition. In the end, Shin survived, becoming the only known person born in a North Korean labor camp to escape and live to tell the tale. However, Shin Dong-hyuk's story has been disputed by other defectors, who accuse him of embellishing details to captivate audiences in the free world. But regardless of its truthfulness, his tale remains profoundly inspirational. It underlines a key point. To be free, you must plan your escape strategically. In the camp, never let on that you're even thinking about escape. Don't delude yourself into playing the hero. Instead, act like a model inmate. Nod at every order, keep your head down, and perform each task as if your only thought is, "Yes, comrade." Appearing harmless is your best camouflage. Next, quietly build your network of trust. Trust no one openly, but get to know everyone silently, especially those new arrivals. You might help a sick bunkmate by carrying his load, or quietly swap tasks on a bitterly cold morning. It's not charity, it's laying the groundwork of mutual trust within a small circle. If possible, team up with your roommates and forge a sense of solidarity. In a critical moment, even one ally who can whisper a warning, slip you a tool, or keep a secret could mean the difference between freedom and failure. But of course, you're only pretending to be naive. Never, ever reveal that you're planning to run. Instead, use casual conversations to gather scraps of information. Gently probe newcomers about the outside world. What's the political climate beyond the camp? Any unusual events lately? What do they know about the roads, villages, military bases or checkpoints in the area? Piece by piece, build a mental map of your surroundings from whatever information you can glean. All the while, quietly prepare a stash of currency. A few tobacco leaves, some matches, a sliver of soap, a handful of rice grains. In the camp economy, such humble items are priceless. You might need them to buy silence from a fellow prisoner, to distract a guard at a crucial moment, or to trade for a warm coat before your run. Hoard these goods patiently and without drawing attention. When you finally have everything ready, don't rush. Wait for the perfect moment. During tool collection or a bathroom break, veer just far enough off course to slip away from your work crew. Then keep moving quietly until the shouts and footsteps of the camp fade behind you. Stay calm. Panic will make you careless and conspicuous. If you have to creep near a village or cross a road, keep your head down and your pace steady, like you belong there. Remember, you are on a mission, literally running for your life. By now you're halfway to freedom, but the journey is far from over. It's time to say goodbye to Mother Korea. The southern border, the DMZ, is laced with minefields and nearly impenetrable, so your only way out is north. That means crossing the Yalu River or the Tumen River, or maybe making a perilous trek through Mount Paektu into China. North Korean border guards won't hesitate to pull the trigger if they spot a defector. And even if you make it across the river, Chinese patrols may catch you and hand you back to North Korea's security forces. Thousands of less fortunate North Koreans have met that fate. China routinely rounds up escapees and repatriates them, despite the horrific punishments that await.
It appears to be becoming more difficult for North Koreans to defect through China, as Pyongyang and Beijing are reportedly cooperating to send defectors back to the north. According to Daily NK, a Seoul...
So ask yourself, are you willing to bet your life on that slim chance of freedom? You might escape the camp only to starve while hiding in the wild, or to freeze to death on a mountain pass, or to languish in a Chinese jail cell, awaiting forced repatriation. You might even start to question your decision mid-escape. Seong-ho, for example, admitted that once he was in China, hungry, cold, and terrified, he started having regrets about leaving North Korea because of how hard the road ahead was. The path to liberty is so lethal that turning back can start to feel easier. Many who dare to attempt escape do get caught, and their suffering only doubles for having tried. Yet, incredibly, some do succeed. And if you're determined to be one of them, you must embrace a paradoxical mindset. Hope for life, but be ready to die. Only with that steeled resolve can you do what needs to be done, whether it means crawling over a friend's electrocuted corpse for one more breath of air, or limping on crutches through endless frozen mountains for one more day of life. This is the price of freedom from North Korea, an escape that demands everything you have. If all this sounds unbearable, you might wonder, is there another way? A less deadly door to deliverance? In the Encyclopedia of North Korea's gulags, there is indeed one escape that doesn't involve running at all.
North Korea is granting a general prisoner amnesty starting August 1st, and this move comes as Pyongyang celebrates the 70th anniversary of its regime's foundation on September 9th. North Korea says it is protecting the independent and creative lives of its people by applying a people-first principle, and that this stands at the core.
You have to admit that the safest escape from a North Korean prison is to wait for the regime to let you out. Not out of mercy for you personally, of course, but as part of one of its periodic grand gestures of clemency, what we might cynically call a royal pardon. Every so often, the supreme leader decides to unlock the gates, not because you deserve freedom, but because it serves his politics. In North Korea, these are known as general amnesties. They arrive unexpectedly, often tied to major anniversaries or propaganda milestones, and when they do, even hardened prisoners can scarcely believe their luck. North Korea has a long tradition of using mass amnesties as propaganda tools. The first was recorded in 1972, and others followed at moments of dynastic significance. Kim Il-sung, the eternal president, granted amnesties in 1987 and 1992 to celebrate his 75th and 80th birthdays. His son, Kim Jong-il, continued the practice, declaring nationwide pardons in 2002, 2005, and 2010. Under Kim Jong-un, the current ruler, these spectacles have only become more frequent. In just over a decade of rule, Kim Jong-un has issued at least 5 general amnesties, on average 1 every 2 or 3 years. Each coincided with a glorious political anniversary, like the 100th birthday of Kim Il-sung in 2012, the 75th anniversary of the ruling Workers' Party in 2015, or the 70th anniversary of the nation's founding in 2018. Even Kim Il-sung's 110th birthday in 2022 was accompanied by a mass pardon decree. Most recently, in October 2025, the regime marked the party's 80-year anniversary with yet another amnesty, positioning Kim Jong-un as a benevolent liberator of convicts. To a prisoner languishing in a camp, these amnesties are like miracles dropping from the sky. One day, out of nowhere, a decree is read over the loudspeakers. Certain categories of inmates will be released early or have their sentences reduced. The news is met with stunned silence, then tears of joy, and sometimes tears of despair from those not included. Because here's the catch: general amnesty is very selective. As we briefly mentioned above, only prisoners who meet specific criteria get out, while political prisoners and traitors are usually left behind. Even in mercy, the regime is calculating. For example, during the 2005 amnesty, which was used to celebrate the 60 years of the liberation of Korea from Japan and the Workers' Party's 65th anniversary, a staggering number of inmates, around 150,000 to 200,000, were freed. But of course, none of them were political dissidents. Likewise, the 2010 amnesty for the party's 65th anniversary reportedly released around 150,000 prisoners, again excluding anyone deemed disloyal to the regime. In other words, the murderers, thieves, and swindlers often get a second chance, while those whose only crime was trying to relocate themselves into another country or speaking against the rulers do not. North Korea grants forgiveness to those who won't threaten its grip on power. Why do these pardons happen at all? The regime certainly doesn't wake up feeling charitable. The amnesties serve clear political and propaganda purposes. State media unfailingly extol them as acts of grand benevolence, proof of the noble, benevolent, and all-embracing politics of the Kim dynasty. Each mass release is stage-managed to reinforce the idea of the leader as a loving father forgiving his wayward children. Nordong Shinmun, the party newspaper, often wraps the announcements in paternalistic rhetoric, calling North Korea a socialist family, where the party embraces all its millions of children. And even those wayward children are given warm guidance, helping them to get back onto the correct path.
The Korean people recollect in tears the tireless work of President Kim Il-sung, who traveled the whole country all his life to bring happiness to the people until he was well over 80 years of age.
The narrative goes, our leader punishes only to educate, and when we repent, his generosity knows no bounds. As one official decree put it, the amnesty reflects the people-first principle of Korean socialism and the greatest loving care of the leader. It's politically choreographed compassion. From the regime's perspective, timed pardons have tremendous practical benefits. Releasing batches of prisoners eases overcrowding in prisons, which are usually hellishly full, and can placate public discontent to a degree. They often coincide with times when the leadership needs a boost in domestic loyalty, or a distraction for the populace. For instance, Kim Jong-un's first amnesty in 2012 helped smooth the transition after his father's death, wrapping the start of his reign in a gesture of clemency. The 2015 and 2018 pardons celebrated major anniversaries, reinforcing patriotic fervour. In 2020, North Koreans were caught off guard by an amnesty announced on Kim Il-sung's birthday. What? Kim Jong-il's birthday was just 2 months prior and nobody got pardoned. Out of the sudden, why is there a mass pardon on Grandpa's birthday? The regime likely calculated that a dramatic release on April 15th, the Day of the Sun, would better cement loyalty during a tough period. Prison guards told newly freed inmates to work hard once out of prison to repay the leader's generosity. Those prisoners, many of whom had only been serving short sentences, wept with gratitude as they walked free. Some were even released from the dreaded Kaechon political prison camp, aka the Camp 14. It was such a rarity that these prisoners had shown model behaviour, and the regime did so to reward their loyalty in the camp. Anyhow, the subtext is clear. Remember, you owe your life to the Kim. By 2025, when the party turned 80, North Koreans almost expected another round of releases. And Kim did not disappoint us. People start to believe that the regime will grant mass amnesty every 5 or 10 years, like a clockwork. Yet, for all these cases, we must remember what a North Korean pardon really means. It is not freedom in a liberal sense. It is conditional and often cynical. Those released are still under regime control, just outside prison walls. They are warned to keep their noses clean and sing praises of the leader who freed them. The Kim regime uses these pardons to remind the populace. One day, a Kim can throw you in a cell. Another day, he can open the door and let you walk out free. Your life is a gift from the leader. Your fate lies in his hands, not yours. It's feudal, but it's also effective. For someone plotting escape, the existence of these pardons introduces a dark strategic dilemma. Do you endure unspeakable misery in the slim hope that a general amnesty will include you? Or do you stake your life on an actual escape? The answer might hinge on your sentence and status. If you suspect you might be released in the next amnesty, enduring and waiting could literally save your life. Indeed, many in the camps cling to rumours of an upcoming amnesty year like a lifeline. It sustains them through the beatings and the hunger. The mere possibility that maybe the next Day of the Sun or Party Congress will open their cell door. And sometimes it does. An old North Korean saying goes, "No prisoner knows his future except the leader." By design, only the dictator's whim, though often disguised as a lawful decree, can decide when punishment ends. In the end, this is the grim truth of the North Korean version of Prison Break. Whether you vault the fence or wait for a state-declared pardon, your fate is decided by the leader. Your life is not yours, but is used to serve the state. To actually break free from North Korea, to totally escape, means slipping out of the narrative that your life belongs to the Kims. You must reject both options the state gives you, the unforeseeable pardon or the never-ending torture. You must control your own life, live for nobody else but yourself. You can wait, sure, many accept the cage, and many live long enough to be forgiven when the regime decides it looks magnanimous to let them go. Or some choose to risk everything and run away. That path might lead to freedom or an unmarked grave in a frozen river. So do you really want to escape North Korea? If you've listened this far, you know that escape and freedom are two concepts loaded with danger and irony. In this cold, bizarre calculus, your best chance of getting out alive might be to stand still and hope the door opens for you. Hope that the next big anniversary brings an amnesty that includes you. Hope that you've been acting good or insignificant enough to qualify as expendable in a show of generosity. It is a waiting game with existential stakes. Or, if you cannot stomach that, if every additional day in shackles steals a piece of your soul, then you already know your answer. You run. You run and you don't look back, come what may. Each path is a gamble with fate. There ain't no good options in the shadow of a gulag. The regime bets that you'll stay and submit. But history shows there will always be those few who choose to bet on freedom, no matter the cost. They crawl under wires, ford icy rivers, vanishing into mountains, limp across continents, just to take back control of their own life. So, do you really want to escape? Don't answer me, just remember, in North Korea, freedom is not a right to be claimed. It is a rare prize to be won, or a privilege to be granted at the leader's pleasure. Either way, it hangs by a thread of peril. Stay safe, and until next time, remember, not all prisons have bars, and not all prison breaks lead to freedom.